here's the Reface CS. CS stands for control synthesizer, and Yamaha has a pretty long history of making CS instruments.
Yeah, in fact, our 40th anniversary of making synthesizers just happened this year. And at the NAMM show this year, we had one of the greatest analog synthesizers ever made. In fact, by some standards, the greatest absolutely is the CS80, which is an amazing machine.
Yeah, the CS series started in the mid-'70s, and the CS80, like Blake said, was probably and still is one of the most legendary instruments in that series. People like Stevie Wonder have used it. Vangelis is one of the really famous users of it for like the Blade Runner soundtrack. Of course, Michael Jackson, and lots of people use it. These are great, fantastic analog synthesizer instruments.
So the CS, the Reface CS here, is a virtual analog synth. But unlike a lot of other synths that are out there, this is a polyphonic virtual analog synth. It's actually 8-voice polyphonic. Really cool.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Reface CS is you have fairly simple controls, but that doesn't mean you have simple sound. You can get really complex sounds with it, and we're going to take you through some of the sounds you can make with the Reface CS.
Absolutely.
So at the heart of the Reface CS is the OSC section, which stands for Oscillator. That's kind of its basic sound-making element. And we have 5 different types. There's a sawtooth, a pulse, an oscillator sync. You have ring modulation, and you also have FM. Now, where this gets really interesting is when you add in the texture and mod sliders. These 2 sliders do unique things per oscillator type, and it's pretty interesting what happens with them. If I go back down to the saw, so that's just kind of a basic sawtooth synthesizer sound. But if I add in texture, and if you guys, those of you who are real fans of old Yamaha CS synthesizers will appreciate this, this adds a sub-oscillator, which is a big part of the CS80, right? If I add in the mod, I get this really thick, detuned sawtooth sound. So I get this fat sound, and that's great for doing things like, you know, string type sounds or pads. You get these really lush sort of sounds out of that, and you can combine them. And now you have kind of EDM, leads and bass style sounds. What other oscillator types do we have there, Blake?
Well, we'll take the FM, and with the texture and the mod slider, let's start with. I also have filter, cutoff, and resonance controls as well. It's truly amazing what those texture and mod sliders do.
Yeah, and the FM was interesting. You were getting almost these real edgy digital tones out of that. So it does more than just sort of simple analog sounds. You can really get some complex things happening. One thing I kind of like about the CS is the flexibility in the LFO. LFO stands for low frequency oscillator, and it's just a way to consistently modulate different parameters. The LFO section of the CS has 5 different settings. There's off, which is off. That's why they called it that. There's amp. Amp is amplitude, and what amplitude is just the volume. So if I set this, depth is all the way up, so it's kind of a tremolo-ish type effect. If I go to filter, now that LFO will control the filter. Pitch is pitch, of course. This you can use. I like to use this. Kind of a vibrato sort of thing. And then OSC will control the OSC parameters like mod. So you can hear the difference in the sawtooth. Texture is all the way up, so I have my sub oscillator. That one stays the same. If I change it to pitch, they'll both move. But in this way, it's just changing one, so it's real clever in how it can manipulate the sound. And you can get these doing crazy things, for example, ring modulation, right? You can get the LFO going so fast that it almost creates another pitch and subtones. Really cool sort of things. How about the EG? Tell us about the EG there, Blake.
Well, the EG, you have 2 types. You have an amplitude envelope generator. This is actually a really good opportunity to use the Reface Capture app. So I can bring up any sound that I want to use here, and I have this one called Longing Pad. It's longing.
Oh, I'm longing right now.
I had to come up with some name for it, so... So with amplitude envelope, if I increase the attack, I have more of a...
So it makes it slower, softer.
Slower. Or increase the release time so it holds. I also have a filter envelope. So if I increase that, it will slowly open up the filter. Very slowly open up the filter. But there's a cool, right in the middle, it does a nice blend between the amplitude and the filter envelope. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And there are a couple other cool features of the Reface CS. One of them is the built-in effects processors. I think you were using some sort of delay there, and it does have a delay setting. The delay, you can affect the depth. And you can affect the rate. And it kind of has this cool behavior as you move the rate in real time. You can get these cool effects, but you can make it very... Other effects it has a phase shifter, again with depth and rate. Chorus/flanger, as you increase the effect, it will turn from a chorus into a flanger, so you'll get these more I call them jet planey. I think that's a technical term, isn't it? And then finally, there's a distortion if you want to. If you want some real dirty sounds. Those are the effects types you have. One other cool feature, the last feature we'll talk about, is the looper. This is a little MIDI phrase recorder that you can use as part of your sound design or to create some ideas. It's real easy how it works. You just slide it down into record, and it'll start beeping. This is the tempo. The first note I play is going to be my downbeat, and then when I move it back to play, that's the end of my loop. So I can just create something simple. And now I can still manipulate the sound while this is going. And if I wanted to add something on top of this, I can. Just go back into record. And I can still continue to manipulate the sound however I want. Do it, change it, anything I want. So that's the looper feature on the Reface CS. And one last thing, one of my favorite tricks, I just have to show this. This is really cool. The Octave Switch. We take it for granted that the Octave Switch, it's just an Octave Switch. I'll just use that. But you can really use this musically. And I found you crank up the delay, you can get this auto synth type thing going. So.
It's like the magic land in a video game.
It's just the way it responds. It doesn't cut off notes. It's like the magic land. You're going to get the prize.
That's right.
Yes, and the high score. So you should get the high score and contact Kraft Music for great bundles and get the Reface CS.